So now that I've edited the type properties of the gutter profile within the actual the project browser breakdown, we should see all gutters that are using that profile update to meet the project particulars that we require. Okay, so pressing OK, we should see our gutter change. And thankfully, as you can see, it's actually matched the criteria that we needed. It lines with our overall panel thickness. It maintains the panel thickness throughout. It's also falling to the underside of the roof pitch accurately, as well as we have defined clearly our internal pitch of the gutter fall here. Okay. So today we're going to cover how you can create a parametric gutter profile for something like a parapet roof, where you've got the hidden gutter in behind the rising parapet of something like a Kingspan or a Tegral or a Paroc panel building. Um, so it's something that I've been queried a lot. I've seen a lot of people use like in place extrusions and that kind of thing. And to be honest with you, it just doesn't make sense to me when we can create a custom gutter profile which we can edit real time within the project, so that we can we can stretch the extents and the shape of it meaningfully by just using known values. Okay, so that's what we're going to cover today. As always, there's going to be a download link directly below. If you it's free for members if you want to go and have a look at that. I also have a free Discord channel that I've set up for the community recently, and it seems to be getting a bit of traction. So if you'd like to go over there and discuss all things BIM and Revit and CAD and whatever, you're more than welcome. As always, I'm Niall, this is 8020 BIM. Make sure to comment and like and subscribe and all that good stuff below. And I won't take any longer in this preamble at the start. We'll just go and get straight into it. All right. So in order to start, we need to understand the context of what we're developing. So you can see on screen here, I'm in the process of developing just kind of a loose architectural envelope over a primary structural frame. So the frame isn't to falls or anything yet. It doesn't have the parapet posts or anything yet. It doesn't have any of the purlins yet. But what I'm doing is I'm setting out the architectural roof to inform all of that for the structural engineers, okay? And as you can see on the inside face here, we actually have a roof falling, okay? And we have the area that we need to populate with the gutter, okay? And we're looking at populating it something akin to this, okay? Whereby we have our gutter profile returning. There's another good example there, and it comes up and tucks under the cladding, okay? So what I want to do is I want to create a gutter profile that we can edit in real time within the Revit project via the type properties that we have created directly in the family profile itself, okay? So what we're going to do here to start is I'm going to show you just an example of a gutter being placed on this, and then I'm going to develop off a new one that we can replace it. So if I went to roof and I go to gutter, okay, I can select gutter from the selection criteria there, and you typically pick the top edge, the leading edge, when you're selecting the roof. So when I select that, needless to say that that's not a suitable gutter type. This is a typical edge kind of box gutter type rather than a hidden parapet gutter. So what we have out of the box generally in Revit is not going to suit this use case. I've also seen people who use in-place components. So they model in place and they basically use a 3D line where they select that and then they just draft the profile that they want in real time. Again, the problem with that is you don't have this permanent solution for the rest of your remaining projects. All you've done is kind of created a singular instance of that for your current project needs, and then you have to recreate that every time when you're on a new project. So we want much more granular control than that, and we want a default family where we can generate that information from. So we're going to get into it, and we're going to start generating the family now. Okay. So what I want to do is I want to go to File, I want to go to New, and I'm going to go to Family. Okay. And there's, in the metric library at least, you can go down to metric profile, and that one is more than enough for the gutter. Okay. So we press OK, and you'll see that we have this crosshair. Okay. When we go up to the family category and parameters here on the top, okay, you can see that the section shape is not defined and the profile usage isn't defined. So the first thing we're going to do is define the profile usage as a gutter, okay, and I'm going to press OK. So now that we've designated that this is going to be a gutter family, okay, I am going to start to develop this out with all the various reference planes and start introducing the dimension-driven parameters that will inform the type parameters within the project itself. Okay, So this intersection here is going to be our lead edge of the roof. Okay, so I'm just going to grab these reference planes and I'm going to unpin them, sorry, straight away. I'm just going to drive the extents of them. Okay, so this is going to be our top side of the roof. Okay, so this corner here, if you imagine, is going to be our lead edge of our roof coming in as such. Okay, so way off this corner is where we want to build down our gutter family. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start introducing reference planes. Okay, so I'm going to introduce one below, and I'm going to introduce a second one below. Okay, and what this one here is going to drive is the roof thickness, so the build up thickness, so that our gutter offsets from that lead edge point. Okay, and then this one is going to define our overall gutter depth, okay, within the gutter itself. Okay, and then I'm going to just create another reference plane off on the right hand side over here. Okay, after that I am going to start introducing just a few more cursory reference planes as well. So I'm going to create a reference plane from the corner, pressing RP again here, and I'm going to bring it down at 45 degrees. I'm just going to extend that up, and I'm also going to create another reference plane offset from that. Again, I'm going to exaggerate these a little bit so we just have a bit more control. And on the outer extents, I'm just going to put one down here, and I'm going to put one out here. And these are going to drive the thickness of our gutter profile. Okay, so you can kind of loosely see that we're starting to form the shape of the gutter profile here, just in our reference planes. So what I want to do is I want to start being a little bit more descriptive. Okay, so on our reference plane here, I'm going to call this one, let's say, gutter lead edge. Okay, I'm going to call this one top of roof, TO roof. Okay, this one here is going to be roof thickness. This one here is going to be gutter thickness, or sorry, depth. Gutter depth. Okay, and over here then this is going to be this is going to drive the width of the overall gutter. Okay, and then after that, I'm not going to name these guys here. Okay, these are just kind of defining ones outside of the gutter boundary. Okay, so now that we have created a few of the reference planes we need, we're going to start driving these with our dimension labels. Okay, so looking at what we have now, I'm going to start to develop just a few lines from the geometry. Okay, so I pressed LI, or you can go to create line. Okay, and I'm going to draw a line here at 45 degrees. Okay, I'm going to draw a line here, and I'm going to draw a line here. And you notice that I don't draw directly onto the reference planes. I want the granular control and to ensure the alignment. Okay, so when I go to the modify tab, as you can see, we can select align, or we can use the short keys AL, and I'm going to select this lead edge here for the reference plane, and then I'm going to select the line, and then I'm going to lock that line to the reference plane. Okay, I'm also going to select this line here, and I'm going to align the end point of our angle within the gutter to that. Okay, and I'm going to do the same for the bottom. Okay, so we have a gutter angle that's falling away, and then it has to go horizontally. Okay, so I'm going to select this area, this reference plane, and then I'm going to align the line to it. Okay, and then I'm going to continue on that front. So I'm going to align the from the reference plane to the bottom of the inside of the gutter, and I'm going to lock that. Okay, and I'm then going to use the reference planes to either side to align again, and then finally I'm going to align this let's say very edge one. So this is where your cladding panel is going to drop down above. Okay, so I'm going to align that, and again I'm going to align the endpoints of those lines to the reference planes accordingly, top and bottom. Okay, now that we've created that, I'm also going to create one more reference plane. That reference plane is going to emanate from here up in this direction. And this reference plane is going to be the pitch for the underside of the roof. So if you imagine that you have your gutter, you've got your roof falling, and then you've got your gutter coming down, the connection to the underside of that roof is actually going to have to follow the alignment of the roof. So what we want to do is we want to give an angle there as well. Okay. So what I'm going to start doing now is I'm going to actually populate the rest of the lines here for the boundaries of the geometry, and then we're going to start introducing our dimensions and our labels accordingly so that we can create our type properties, which will drive the functions of the setting out of the gutter within the live project. Okay. So again, I'm going to press LI, and I'm just going to do a chain of lines as such. Okay. And I'm just going to align as previous. So I'm going to press AL. It's going to continue around all the way. And you'll see here, now that I have this angled element here, I'm going to align to that angle there. Okay. And finally, I'm going to just do 2 more lines. So a little one here and a little one here. And again, I'm going to ensure that I'm aligning these all correctly to the reference planes all the way around. Okay. And making sure to lock every time so that Revit knows to pull and push the shape with the reference planes as the reference plane locations change. And again, I'm just going to align this line to the angle. Okay. So now that should be relatively complete, and we should be able to move some of these elements, and you can see the way that the line information is following the reference planes accordingly. Okay, so that's good. We can do a little bit of a stretch and a flex here, and everything appears to be working. Okay. So now that we've created the base profile and we've created the reference planes, what we need to do is start introducing the actual dimension values that are going to be labeled and drive the type parameters within the Revit project. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start dimensioning out these. Okay, so this one here is going to be our gutter width. Okay, so what I'm going to do is once I select the dimension after placing it, so to place the dimension, you can go to your Create tab and select Aligned here, okay, for the dimension, or you can just press DI and it'll bring up your dimension dialog. Okay, so pressing DI, I'm going to dimension there, and we're going to label this. This is going to be a family parameter, it's going to be a type parameter, and it's automatically assigned to dimensions because we're driving by dimensions. So I'm going to call this gutter width. Sorry, I'm going to press OK, and then I'm going to create another one here, and this one is going to be named, so we're going to create a new label, and we're going to call this gutter thickness, and again it's a type parameter, dimensions. Then we're going to go DI and we're going to set out here, and this one we're going to create a new label, and we're going to call that roof thickness. So this, again, remembering that this is our leading edge that we're selecting from the roof, we need to give an offset value for the roof thickness for our gutter to attach to the underside of it. Okay. So we got roof thickness here, and then we're going to say DI again, and here, because it's the internal dimension, this is actually our roof, our gutter depth. Okay. So we're going to create a new label, and we're going to call it gutter depth. Depth, again, it's a type parameter, family parameter, dimensions. Finally, we're going to just do a few more smaller ones. Okay, so we've got our gutter depth, our thickness, we have, I'm trying to think what else. Oh, sorry, yes, we have the angles. Okay, so on our angles here, we're going to select angular, and I'm going to pick from this line to this line. Okay, and again, I'm going to pick from this line to this line. And here, we're going to give this a label, and this is going to be gutter internal angle. And you can see again, it's a family parameter, type, dimensions. I'm going to press OK. I'm also going to change this one to the same label. Okay. Constraints are not satisfied. Okay, hold on a second. I may have over constrained this. Oh, yes, yes, yes. Don't worry about that one. I think if I can actually change this value, if I remember correctly, hold on. 55, this one. Okay, yeah. And then we're going to create one more angular dimension here. And this is going to be our label roof pitch. And again, it's a family parameter, type, dimensions. I'm going to press OK. And we should be able to change this one. So I'll give that 2.5. And you can see that the angle is changing there accordingly, which is great. And then finally, what I want to do is I just want to introduce a few more of the thickness parameters. So I'm going to just introduce these parameters here. These parameters are going to be the same as the gutter thickness. So we're going to put them to gutter thickness. Okay. Now I just want to test this here. Yeah, perfect. Okay. So the gutter thickness, I didn't want to actually, if we had these two as the same angle, we'd lose the variability of the gutter thickness. It's easier to confine one angle and then have a designated parallel view plane that will shift with that by controlling the gutter thickness. So obviously gutter thickness is like our gutter width there at 2.8 meters is insane. So needless to say, we're going to change that to 600 because that's a more realistic gutter width. And our gutter depth shouldn't be 300. That should be about 250, let's say. And our gutter thickness definitely shouldn't be 245. It should probably be in the region of about, in this instance, I'll give it 75. Okay. And you can see how easily editable this becomes. We're not really that badly constrained in terms of the number of constraints, but we actually just have so much utility now within the family that we can we can control all of these dimension driven parameters or labels, I should say, within the type properties within the project itself. Okay, so now that we've created this is like the full creation of the gutter family, that everything you're going to need in order to set out that box gutter arrangement on the parapet. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to say file, save as family, and I'm just going to call it Parapet box gutter. I'm going to load into the project. Okay, and now what we can do is when I go to my roof, I'm going to say roof gutter. I'm going to place the gutter. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to say edit. I'm going to duplicate type, and I'm going to call this Parapet box gutter. I'm going to press OK, and from the profile here, then I'm going to call up the Parapet box gutter here. Okay, I'm going to press material. I want the material to reflect this material here, but I'll do that now in a moment. Okay, so I'm just going to press OK first of all, just to get the shape, and you can see, oh, that's remarkably close. That's remarkably close. Okay, so I'm just going to look at this material here. So insulated panel sandwich. So I'm using the Kingspan. I just want to get a reflection of the insulation value on this solid wall. Okay, so edit. Okay, so this guy, I'm just going to duplicate this guy, and on the surface pattern, I'm just going to say to no pattern. Okay, and I'm going to rename that gutter insulation. Okay, press apply. Okay, okay, and now you can see that we have a full gutter run in place that we can start to manipulate. So we can't edit this within our gutter dialog here. Okay, but what we can do is going down to the families. We can see I've got a Parapet box gutter here. Okay, if we double click, if we expand that and double click, it will give us the values of our of the parameters, the dimension driven labels basically that we generated within the family itself. So what we can do now is physically just change these values within the Revit project in every instance that we want. We can just duplicate this gutter whenever we need a variance between this, and all we need to do is use the dimensions to drive the change. Okay, so in this instance, I'm going to say I want the gutter thickness to be 90. I want the gutter depth to be, I think 250 looks like it's about right there. I'll give it 200. I want the gutter width to be, I think I measured this at 604, I think it's about 614. Our pitch in this instance, it shouldn't have an E there, mind you. I misspelled that. This is only a 1 degree pitch in this example here, for example, so I'm just going to say that. And our roof thickness, I think here, this leading edge here, is 138. Okay, so as with the start of the video with a little snippet there to give you an idea of what's going on, this should now hopefully update the gutter profile and all instances of this gutter that are using that profile to match our particular constraints within the project. Okay, pressing OK, and you should see that that looks just about right, doesn't it? So what we have is we have a slight offset on the parapet wall, so we can have a lap here, but what we don't have here is actually an offset value here. Okay, and what people don't realize is that you can still give the profile offsets within the gutter, just because you've made the gutter family with dimension driven labels, basically your type properties, doesn't mean you lose the offset properties from the actual gutter main function, you know. So we can give the horizontal profile offset, we can give this -50, let's say -50, and we can go back to our vertical profile offset. I'm just going to give that 2, just so it goes up to the underside of the thing, and you can see that our lead edge is still there, but it's offsetted, so we have a reasonable lap, but we need to restore our lap over here again. So we can just go back into our box gutter here, and instead of 614, I'm just going to add 50 to that, so 664, press OK. And now you can see that we have a full working gutter for our parapet. Okay, so outside of that, there's just one more thing I want to touch upon very quickly, and that is essentially how to introduce crickets to this. So because the gutter profiles themselves are profiles, they're basically just one shape that's extruded down a path. We cannot use the gutter profile as a way of getting the internal falls within the gutter. So this is obviously flat, and what we'd really have in intervals going down through the roof, depending on what the rain flow calculations would tell us, we'd have a series of outlets going down the roof. And in this instance, we do not know what those outlets intervals are, but also we can't introduce the falls to those outlets because it's just a profile down a path, right? So what I normally do, and just to kind of give you a high level overview, and I'll be touching upon this on the next, not the next video, but the video after that, is I will detail how I introduce the crickets to this as well, so that on the plan view we can still get our falls and we can still have a clearly defined gutter outlet location. But in the next video, we're actually going to go through how you can create your parapet flashings in a similar manner to give a family that is dimension driven, so that rather than like I have currently here, this is an in-place extrusion that follows the path. What we want to do is we want to have a designated profile that we can manipulate using the type properties, the way I have for the gutter here, to actually drive the parapet the parapet capping, sorry, apologies. And then finally what I'll be doing is using the two families that we've generated, I'll be generating a whole video which will go through in-depth a way to actually detail out parapet models properly within the Revit environment, so that when you make a grid alteration, the whole arrangement of the wall, from the rising wall details all the way up to the parapet details, including the gutter and the alignment of the roof, all of that information also slides with the setting out changes that are grid driven. So what it is it's a way of managing the roof detailing correctly, so that when you're changing your GAs on the floor plans for the levels below, you know that your roof integrity is still intact. So the next video is going to be about doing the parapet capping in a similar manner using a type property driven family. And then the one after that is going to be just a full breakdown of how I choose anyway to model parapets in Revit, so that you can kind of manage the setting out of them across the whole project meaningfully and correctly and intelligently, really. So that's it, really. Trying to think, I think that about sums it up. As always, as I said at the start, this family is available down below if you want to go and download it. There's also a support page down below, and truth be told, guys, I'm really enjoying making the contact, but I'm a busy man these days, and if you want to support me and encourage me to continue doing this, I would appreciate any support that's coming my way. As always, I'm Niall to say to 20BIM. Any comments below? Any suggestions? Any elements you feel I missed in this? just please leave them down below. I'd love other users to be able to get eyes on them as well. And as always, if you just want to have a general chat about the methodologies or any Revit things at all, just go down and join that Discord community I've outlined below. So everyone, I'm Niall, this is 80/20 BIM. That was how to create your own custom Parapet Gutter profile so that you control the setting out meaningfully in the Revit Live project environment. And I'll see you for the next one. Be good. I hope you're safe and well in these times. And yeah, talk to you.